Welcome to part 4. I'm glad you like the story. Okay. Let's continue with the final and the most beautiful ending with God on our side. After I sat down on the floor with my hands on my heads, I was desperate. I thought of the village healer, Miss Adele. But something stopped me. That night, I had a different dream. I stood in a field of light, facing a small white church, glowing like it was touched by heaven. A voice echoed, "Come to me, all you who are weary, and I will give you rest." When I woke, I knew what I had to do. I wasn't going to seek help from old rituals. I was going to seek God. Finding the church. The next morning, I searched for that church from my dream. I remembered one a few towns over, small but solid. I had never been religious, but something stirred inside me, urging me to go. I arrived at the church on a quiet Sunday. Inside, the congregation sang hymns, while the sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, casting a peaceful glow over everything. It felt like the calm I had been craving for months. I sat in the back, unsure of what to expect. But when the pastor began to speak, it was as though he was talking directly to me. He spoke of burdens, of fear, and of God's love that could wash it all away. After the service, I approached him. With shaking hands, I told him everything about Princess Marah, David's death, the curse that haunted me. He listened quietly, without judgment, and then took my hands to pray. As we prayed, something inside me shifted. The fear and guilt that had wrapped around my heart began to loosen. I didn't fully understand yet, but I knew one thing: I wasn't alone anymore. A new path forward. After that day, I began attending the church regularly. Every sermon, every prayer brought me closer to peace. The nightmares came less frequently, and though David's death still hurt, it no longer crushed me with guilt. I was healing. One day, I returned to the pastor with the jeweled comb in hand. I told him how Miss Adele had said it was the key to breaking the curse, but I didn't want to use old rituals anymore. I wanted to know what God would have me do. The pastor listened and then said, "We don't need rituals to find peace. Give your burdens to God. He is the ultimate healer." He suggested I confront what I'd been running from, but this time bring it to the foot of the cross. That night I prayed deeply, asking God for guidance. I knew what I had to do. I needed to return to the tomb, but this time not in fear. I would go with faith. Returning to the tomb. The next morning, I asked the pastor and a few church members to come with me. We prayed together before setting off, asking for God's protection. For the first time, I felt ready to face this part of my life, knowing I wasn't alone. When we reached the tomb, the air was heavy but no longer terrifying. With the comb in my hand, we gathered around the old stone coffin where Princess Marah's spirit had rested for centuries. Instead of laying the comb down like some ritual, we prayed. We prayed for Marah's soul, for David, and for the peace we all needed. Tears filled my eyes as I knelt beside the coffin, whispering, "Lord, I give this to you. Please bring peace to Marah's spirit and help me let go of the fear and guilt." In that moment, something shifted. The coldness of the tomb faded, replaced by a warmth that filled the air. The heavy burden I'd carried for so long was lifted. The curse was broken, not by magic, but by God's love. Finding peace. After that day, I never had another nightmare. The shadow of Marah's presence was gone, and though David's memory still hurt, I knew he was at peace too. I continued attending church, growing in my faith and finding healing in God's love. A few months later, I met Marcus. a man who had also gone through his own struggles. Our shared faith brought us together, and we helped each other heal. In time, we fell in love. We got married in the same small church where I had first found peace. The same pastor who had helped me at the tomb officiated the ceremony. As Marcus and I stood together, I felt the overwhelming love and peace of God surrounding us. The curse was truly broken, not just in my life, but in my heart. I had found love again, not just with Marcus, but with God. I had given my burdens to him, and in return, he had given me peace. For the first time in my life, I was free, thanks to my Father. God. That is the end of the story. Please likes, share, and subscribes, and always remember, God is always right there to help us all.